For some reason, when it comes to veterans, money, benefits, all that seem to always be a huge topic. And it's because typically people join for that. And we know that when the government's missing out on money and you are maybe not paying them, whether that be your taxes, you're in the military and they overpay you, they take that money back so quickly. But on the other side, it is a little bit of a snail's pace. So this topic came up because Task and Purpose came out with an article which said veterans receiving disability payments might have been underpaid Inspector General fines. Now from this, they did do a basic synopsis overbrief of what's happening, but reading this actual brief made it even more insane as why veterans and which veterans are being underpaid. Now, to give context, there is this chart right here which shows all of the levels of special pays that someone could be a part of for special certain conditions. Now, based on these levels, I'm not sure the exacts of it, but it was essentially used for people that had very severe disabilities, such as amputations and things like that. Now, from all these levels, there are calculations that are put into a computer system, which they found that there were two different calculators. The OIG substantiated the allegations and found that the VBMSR calculator produced inaccurate SMC levels and corresponding codes and paragraphs for a variety of disability combinations. In some instances, veterans could receive incorrect monthly benefit payments, most of which would be underpayments. If claims processors relied on the incorrect results, in other instances, the VBMSR calculator did not produce results, but instead generated an alert message that the request had failed. In these cases, the claims processor would have to identify alternate means to process the SMC. Meanwhile, the OIG found that the legacy calculator had accurate results. So pretty much people were like, we have two calculators, which by the way, the legacy was like manual, harder to use, and that was accurate. Somebody created an easier version and it failed. And then essentially with those calculations, it looks like people would say, close enough, it'll buff out, and they would like just push through whatever they could to get somebody money, and we're just gunking it. Anybody that's ever been in the military, you don't lie, you don't just do this. I don't think that stops when you leave. If you're in public service, like people are relying on this money, especially some of the conditions that they talked about as to why they are getting these benefits to let you know how serious this is. And I have to say that essentially your mom was right. Your teachers were right. You're not going to have a calculator wherever you go. So you got to learn to do it the manual way. That's how this has to be. Because for some reason, bureaucracy, someone's going to find a way to make a program to fix this, get millions of dollars in contracts or whatever else, make jobs, do whatever. And hopefully the veterans in a couple years get this figured out. But the math of veteran affairs disability doesn't really make sense. If you are rated at 50% for one condition, 50% for another, that doesn't equal 100%. You got to look this up. It's too hard to explain. Not what this video is about, but it is ridiculous at how it is. It's too convoluted. And the fact we're relying on this means it's even more convoluted. We could dumb this down a little bit and make it a little bit easier. But the seriousness of the conditions are listed here. The VBMSR calculator did not generate the correct levels with the corresponding codes and paragraphs for the disability scenarios included in the allegations for several others identified by the Office of Inspector General team. Some of these errors happened only with specific disability combinations, while others occurred with multiple disability combinations. These errors involved a wide range of disabilities and included disabilities and leave a veteran in need of aid and attendance, meaning they're not on their own, able to do whatever they can by themselves. Loss of the use of two or more extremities, like giving an arm and a leg, has a new meaning in this situation here. Blindness in both eyes. Jesus, man. We're messing with blind people now? Additional disabilities that qualified for increased levels and various combinations of the factors listed above. So this was affecting some people that were the most needy of the services and benefits monetarily speaking because they needed actual aid. These people had true, could not function disabilities. We're not talking about people that were just throwing something at the map, trying to get something on the board that's service connected. We're talking about people that had legitimate issues here. And they do say in this article or this publication that they did see very few were overpaid. The issue has been underpayment for the majority of these issues. Now, with any cluster that's been out there from the VA, you've heard the horror stories, but the issue is now not only do they find the mistake, but then it is how do they go through and actually audit and fix that mistake? And that is a messy situation because they don't know when this started. VBA officials told the review team that they did not have the information to determine the cause of the VBMSR calculator errors identified in the review or to identify how long the errors had been occurring. An OIT program manager with the compensation and pension product line also could not determine the cause of the errors or how long they had been in place. He said that the SMC rules built into the VBMSR calculator were converted to new version in 2023. Since the old version of the rules was no longer available for comparison, he could not say when the defects were introduced. Given the limited scope of this review, VBA should take the additional steps to ensure the overall accuracy of the VBMSR calculator. I'm a little worried because I'm sitting here and I'm just like, so how many people are they going to review? Like, they can't review everybody. You would think that in 2025, we got AI, we have other stuff that's kind of crazy, that we could more than likely take whatever calculator and say, let's audit with this new tool every single one of these and just make sure that and do some kind of code or reflection. But to me, knowing that this is government, it's probably not that easy because there's 50 million systems that have to talk to each other and contracts here and contracts there. And so, yeah. Now, I have to also worry because we're talking about people that, we're saying are missing 4,000 a month, right? That possibly can't see, can't have arms or legs, have difficulty working and providing for themselves. We're talking about people where even this $4,000 a month at the very high end, yes, it is tax free, but they're still at like $50,000-ish in that ballpark to be able to survive. And to give all that for your country, to then not get paid, to then have to fight, put inspector general complaints in, to get people to help you out, just live your daily life. What does this mean for, did they have to take out loans? Did they have to not go with care? Was there abuse, neglect? Like, I don't know the legality of this. I really don't. And if they have a case, I'm hoping that's not the case. And these people obviously have family or something to help them out. But it is quite crazy when we're not talking about just, I have the sniffles, for example. Now, granted, these people will receive back pay. That's always been a thing with the Veteran Affairs Department when it comes to disability. But even with that, there are hardships that do come with not having the money right at that moment. Just putting it out there. Now, this has rallied up a lot of people across social media, with some of them kind of outraged by this, just kind of like how I am as well. But they say this. Josh Bentley says, so are we going to talk about the VA math and how 140% disability equals 90%? And Andre Spivey says, it also says in the article that this is related to extended disabilities such as amputees. Then goes on to say some were overpaid. How can an amputee be overpaid? They gave you an arm and a leg, some both, some of their vision and hearing. Imagine sending an amputee a letter stating that you overpaid. I'm hoping this all gets resolved. I don't know how they're going to be able to file back and see all of these errors or calculations. I would tell any veteran that's out there, make sure that you know what your rating is, compare it to what you're getting paid, and make sure that it's good or solid because they're doing some funky stuff over here, okay? But as always, I love you guys. I'll see you next time.